Yeah, no, no surprises whatsoever. We had a plan earlier this week around what was going to happen, and the question for us is really why FIFA didn't act to prevent this, and why the global football system didn't work together to prevent this and stop it happening. Because all I'm hearing again thus far is excuses about who should have filed what paperwork and who should have filed permission for X, Y, and Z. For this to happen when we all knew, lots of us and you guys in the press would have known this as well, there was a real serious risk of this happening. We had press requests earlier this week to talk about the potential of it. You know, if we knew that, FIFA knew it, and they've just not done enough. And I just really question the real will, intent, and desire to eradicate discrimination. If you can't protect players in an environment, a situation where you're 90% sure they're going to get abused. Well, I think if a country's been found guilty of discrimination and the stadium has been ordered to be closed to fans, then that should apply irrespective of the competition that country's playing in. Because the message is really simple. The message actually is, if you can't control your fans and we can't protect players that are going into that environment, then you're not fit to hold a game. Whether that's a European game or a world qualifier is irrelevant to me. That's the message, and therefore it should apply. The second bit really is around risk assessments now, because what this calls into question for us is essentially countries like ours are going to probably have to do, if FIFA don't take this seriously and UEFA have started to step up, if they don't take it more seriously, we're going to have to do our own probably individual risk assessments. Because again, the people that I really felt for last night are our young men and Gareth Southgate, who were sent into an environment where they shouldn't have to deal with, especially in an environment when it's preventable as it was. There are situations where you don't know stuff's going to happen, and to a degree, we've got to deal with those situations. But when it's preventable, where you know it's going to happen, should we really be? We've got a far better duty of care to our professional players than to send them into an environment like that. And I think FIFA have got to take responsibility for that. Well, I mean, the question I suppose I'd be asking is, if we had to play Hungary again in a couple of months' time, for example, and FIFA hadn't taken appropriate sanctions, and we were faced with the same situation of going into an environment where 60,000 fans are going to abuse our players, then I'm sure there'd be a discussion. There'd have to be a discussion about how we can keep our players safe. So, and I'm sure there was prior to this game, but even that wasn't enough to stop what happened. And I think, again, if the organisations aren't going to take it seriously enough, I'm sure our FA will be pushing them appropriately to say, you've not done enough here. This isn't good enough. I think it's completely laughable. And if that discussion is happening, then that sends a really strong message about really how seriously our governing bodies are taking this issue. And I think that is at the crux of the problem. I think intent really for me is at the crux of this problem. If FIFA wanted to solve this issue, wanted to do the right thing, we wouldn't have seen the events of last night, because they'd have been serious and they'd put preventative measures in place. If they're now having a conversation as to whether this is a new offence because it's a World Cup qualifier as opposed to a Euro game, I mean, that's just laughable. It's just absolutely laughable. Tell that to the players who were abused last night. Well, I don't think it's a past record. We're talking about the FIFA's record yesterday evening. So this is here and now. So I have no confidence at all that the governing bodies will do the right thing when it comes to discrimination, because every time there's an opportunity to show the teeth and to do the right thing, it's lost. It's lost in platitudes and it's lost in action. And we're sick of hearing it, to be honest. And as when we started talking, Jamie, we're here again. I think the question we've got to ask ourselves is, why are we here again? Why do we keep coming back to these same scenarios when they are so predictable and they are so preventable? If the governing bodies and the right people have got the intent to effect change, they'll do it.